So, hello and welcome all. A very good evening to each and every one of you. Please let me know if I'm clearly audible. So, how are you all doing? I hope everything is crystal clear from my end. If yes, please let me know. So, from today, we are going to start with a playlist which is nothing but problem solving. This is nothing but the most in demand skill that you can understand of or relate to, no matter which problem or which domain you are working into. You will always be facing problems, and especially in the IT domain. Whenever you try to appear for an interview, the very basics are nothing but at least you will have 1 to 2 rounds which will be consisting of problems. Now these problems could be based on just pseudocodes or maybe some specific programming languages. Most of the time you will be given a choice over there. So all I see is the count of 15 people, but there is no one responding in the chat, or maybe yeah, hi Ashish. So the people who are having the doubts regarding what happened to previous content, please watch my yesterday's live video after this session. For this current session, let's focus on why we all are over here. Omkar, this is irrespective of any programming language. Here we will be trying to solve all the kinds of problems irrespective of any programming language. So here I will be teaching you how to build out on the logic to solve any problem, and as per your convenience you can try to put it out in any programming language that you are comfortable with. So you can understand this maybe for DSA or for Java or for Python, whichever programming language you are comfortable with. The basic skill that you require is nothing but the problem solving. Once you are good with problem solving, you can take it up on any programming language. Once again, for whoever has the questions that what happened to earlier playlists, please go ahead and watch my yesterday's live session. In that I have explained, and please no more questions regarding the previous things. Let's just focus on the new beginnings. Omkar, I think I already answered your question that it will be irrespective of programming languages, and when you talk about Java is way beyond what you're just focusing right now. So anyways, the people who are actually interested in problem solving, let's start with today's session. So problem solving in itself is a very vast terminology. Why I would say this? Because problem solving is something that we encounter in our day-to-day lives. Some of the most common scenarios are nothing but maybe business meetings, maybe personal situations, maybe personal relationships. Everywhere we do come up and encounter different types of problems. So these are what we call as the non-technical problems, in which you have to allow your instinct to hold on a bit, play some emotional things, scale out on which things you want to prioritize, and then you think about the solution. In those situations you might not have ample amount of time, so what you do is that you take decisions based on your previous experiences or maybe your certain biases. But in today's session, or let me say that in this playlist, we will be covering the problem solving that we require when we usually attend interviews, when we usually solve coding problems, when we are usually dealt with certain situations where we have technical problems. So this playlist will be helpful for you guys in order to learn the skill of problem solving, with which you could be able to help yourself move in your careers and learn problem solving, which will not just be helpful for you in interviews but at the same time in your problem solving life skills as well. So are we crystal clear what is our end goal with this playlist? If yes, please let me know once. Anyone in the chat? Anyone has any doubts? Please let me know once. If no, we will proceed with the session. Okay, since nobody is saying anything, I assume we do not have any doubts. So I will move on. So whenever you are given any problem, there are certain predefined steps that you might understand with this. The very first is nothing but to understand the problem. So whatever problem has been given out to you, you have to ensure that you read the problem multiple times so as to understand and to figure out what does it precisely want you to solve. In certain scenarios, it just might want you to assemble some pieces. For example, the problem the problem in itself might comprise of the solution. All you have to do is just take some time, calm down yourself and figure out how to unjumble the problem so that you figure out the solution. In certain cases, the problem will be something which will not be heard, or maybe you will not be aware about any of those things. In that case, you might need to figure out something precisely so that you are able to solve that problem. Or in certain cases, if you're not able to understand it at all, you have to try to figure out that you read the problem once again and explain in your own words to the interviewer, so that if your understanding of the problem is not correct, the interviewer will definitely help you in understanding the problem correctly. And only if you are able to understand the problem correctly, then only you will be able to solve it. So is the first point crystal clear to you guys? So I assume that once again you do not have any doubts with the first point or the first step. Then once we are clear with the first step, it means that we have been able to understand the problem accurately, precisely and correctly, so that we are also able to make ourselves understand. If we are saying about the problem to somebody else, they will be able to understand the problem as well. So if that thing is crystal clear, then we need to mind map to solve. It means that we need to understand the problem in such a way that, depending upon our experiences, or if you have encountered any such problem which once again relates to whatever experiences you have in your life and problem solving, you might be able to identify in such a way that you might have a pattern which you already know about that kind of problem. So if that is the situation, then I would say that half of your problem is already solved, because you have already encountered such kind of a problem and you will be able to figure out a way to how to solve it. Now that could be the one scenario in which the problem which has been given to you, you are already familiar with that, or maybe you have seen a problem which is of a similar kind to that. So in that way you are already known with the problem that has been brought in front of you. The second thing is, if the problem is very entirely unknown to you, in that kind of scenario, what you have to do is that you have to try to figure out, because I think that we have made the first point crystal clear, that you have known the problem in such a way that you are clearly able to understand the requirements of the problem. At the same time, if not, you have had a talk with your interviewer and he or she has already explained you the problem and you are able to understand it clearly. If that is the case, then you have to think out of the box. It means that you don't have to figure out the traditional approach of solving any problem, but you have to start thinking of alternatives which will help you in solving a problem. So in that way, we have the first step cleared. It means that we have understood the exact requirements of the problem, or we can say that we have understood the problem precisely. Second thing is that we have also understood now that whether the problem which has been given to us is a problem which is known to us, is a problem of which are we already aware. Even if we have some hint about that, we assume that we have already known the problem, we have already figured out the pattern that the problem belongs to. And if not of these any of the cases, then it means that we need to take some time, think out of the box and try to build up certain solutions which by now we are not aware of. Maybe that may be a common problem, but at least we are not aware of, so we will have to think out on that lines. So if you have any doubts in either of the first two steps, please let me know. In the meantime, we are moving on with the step number 3. So I'm waiting for you guys to respond in the chat if you have any problems. Come on guys, this session is for you, and at least have a gesture at whether you are able to understand the things. Yes, no, something, some kind of reply. So I assume that you do not have any doubts in first two steps. So let's move with the step number 3. Are you able to solve the problem correctly? So if you have understood the problem correctly, if you have figured out a pattern which you already knew, or you have devised a new plan to solve the problem, the third step, which is the most important, is that you must be able to solve the problem correctly. By correctly, I mean that you have to solve it and get the correct answers for all the possible cases that the interviewer has proposed to you, or in your understanding could be the possible test cases. Once you are ready with the general cases, then you need to include certain edge cases as well. Whether going down the line you are able to solve it with the same solution, whether if you are trying to cross a barrier on the up edge side, then you are able to solve the same problem with the same solution. If that is the case, then so far what you have done is that you have taken the problem in such a way that you learnt about the problem, you devised a way or you thought of a pattern which you were already familiar with, then you tried to solve the problem for all the possible cases that the interviewer asked you for or that you might have been aware of, and finally you were able to solve the problem including all the edge cases. Now when we talk about edge cases, whenever you appear for a coding test or maybe a programming logic test, there will be certain cases which will be hidden, and those hidden cases will nothing but the edge cases. Now edge cases are certainly the cases which are very extreme. For an example, if I would say that you have to do a programming just for subtraction. Now subtraction typically means that we are subtracting a minus b, so a could be anything in the natural numbers or the whole numbers, b could be anywhere in that. But what edge cases might include is that what happens if you subtract 1 minus infinity. So those kind are the cases wherein you might not typically think about. When we say about subtracting two numbers, what comes in your mind is any number which is valid in the range from 1 to infinity or 0 to infinity. But here when we say infinity, that will not be the first instinct that will come to your mind. That is something who has already done it will be able to come up with the infinity. So that edge cases will contain what if I try to do 3 minus infinity, what will happen in that case? Will my code be able to handle that situation? So those are nothing but the edge cases. So you must ensure that you are solving the problem which will give solutions for those edge cases as well. And finally, if you are able to do all the first 3 steps correctly, then the interviewer will start grinding you on these parameters. Now these parameters are nothing but the comparisons as into which situation your code or your logic is probably coming into picture. For example, many people are able to solve the problem, but most of them will have different logic, different implementations. So what comes at the interviewer when they are trying to figure out whom to choose? At that point of time, they will go through certain type of parameters that are listed in front of a screen. For example, which of the multiple codes that have been submitted by multiple candidates is most simple? Which is the code after looking at which I can easily understand what the code is trying to do? So which is more simple and which is more clear? So the first point is nothing but the simplicity and clarity. So whichever code has been given to you or the problem has been given to you, if you have written the solution to it, The interviewer or the judge will definitely look into the fact that if your problem is able to solve the if your solution is able to solve the problem completely and correctly, then these parameters will be checked on, and first of all them would nothing be but simplicity and clarity. Is your problem solution able to clearly understand a person who has not seen the problem? Just by looking at the solution, will that person be able to figure out what problem is this solution trying to solve? Then definitely one thing that comes into mind is how efficient this problem is. If two people are trying to solve the same problem, then it comes to the efficiency. If you are able to do a task in 4 days, the other person is able to do the same task in 3 days, definitely the person with the 3 days will be recommended. So that is where nothing but the efficiency comes into picture. Then if you have implemented a solution and that is needed on a large platform, then what will be checked is nothing but the scalability factor. Is your solution scalable? If you are trying to make something that is working for one problem, will that work for 10 different problems? Now, by problems, I do not mean the nature of the problems changing, but similarity. So, will your solution be able to handle 10 different instances of the problem, or maybe after that 100 different instances? So, that is nothing but the scalability. Post that, there are other factors as well, as you can see: compatibility, durability, reliability, security, portability, testability, and so on. There are others as well, but which are not very much important, but the first 3 to 4 are definitely important when you talk about the interview process. So whenever in interview, if you are able to understand the problem, that is the first green signal that you might get from your interviewer, if you are actually able to understand the problem that the interviewer is trying to explain to you or present you. So that is nothing but the first step that you should be very crystal clear with, that you understand the problem, the nature of the problem, and the requirements of the problem. Secondly, are you taking ample time to come up with a solution, or are you looking into something that you have already figured out or maybe have known that problem? That is a parameter which most of the time is not a key factor in deciding your candidature. So if you are taking some time, that is perfectly fine. If you are jumping onto the solution directly, then maybe that could be a red signal, because the interviewer might feel that you are already trying to get onto a problem which you already know. So just take some time to think. If the interviewer is just trying to give you a simple problem just for knowing that whether you can solve it, or whether the intentions of the interviewer are how efficiently you are able to solve it. So in either of the situation, what you have to do is that you have to take some time, think on the problem. Even if you know the problem, just think that how can you do it differently than what you have already thought in your mind. And if any of these things are not holding you back, then move ahead, write the problem, and see if you are able to solve it for all the cases, including the edge cases. If that is also perfectly fine, then compare your problem on these various parameters, which the interviewer will grind you definitely on, that how simple and clear your solution is, how efficiently it is solving the problem, how scalable it can get during vast implementations, how compatible it is with current and previous versions if implemented or deployed on large scale. But those things will not be actually tested in the interview. The first 3 points will be the ones which will be taken or tested in the interview scenarios. So with this, please let me know that is there anything which you were not able to understand during this introduction session of problem solving? Is there anything, any point that you missed or you did not understand? Please let me know. As I told you, problem solving is the basics of no matter which programming you are looking into, which question you are trying to solve. If it is a question regarding coding, then definitely problem solving is your very basic step that you need to understand. So please let me know once if there is anything that you have not understood in the session so far. Is there anything that I need to reiterate on? So I think there is no doubts with regards to today's session. If you have any doubts with what happened to the previous playlists, the content that was available previously, you can go ahead and watch my yesterday's live session. In that I've explained. So with that, we would wind up today's session. If you like the video, do not forget to press that and like button, and do share with your friends, and do add in the only Telegram channel right now, which is nothing but Live with Atul. I came to know and I'm able to see that there are multiple channels being opened with the previous name, which was TCS Wings on Live. Believe me guys, there is only one channel right now which I am handling. If you do get scammed with either of the channels, I would definitely suggest you not to look into those, because those channels were opened without any intimation and I'm not aware what is going on in those channels. So try to refrain yourselves from going into those channels. There is only one Telegram group right now which is looked by me, that is nothing but Live with Atul. So with this, I would like to say thanks for joining in today's session. If you liked the video, do let me know in the chat which other things would you like to know beyond this, and if this playlist will be helpful for you. So with this, thank you so much for joining in. See you soon guys. Bye. Take care.